Miami's at the forefront, along with 6 other schools, to make an attempt to break away from the ACC and tear up that grant of rights that some lawyers will tell you is airtight and others will tell you can obviously be challenged. And the closer we get to the deadline of 2036, the more it weakens.
Yeah.
And your thoughts about that effort?
I mean, it's not ironclad. It would just cost $500 million per school probably to get out of it. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, oh yeah, like we're not letting y'all out. Like you can get out, it's just you have to pay it. And people are like, oh, it's 120 or whatever, but that would probably be, and then residual, payments or whatnot. Like, yeah, it's closer to $500 million from everything that I've seen. I just want to remind people, because I've seen this. I was talking with a friend about this yesterday. Miami and Dan Radakovich, right, new athletic director, former, got his master's at Miami, started his career at Miami, was at Clemson, helped them develop their championship programs and everything, especially in football. Dan Radakovich was the first one who brought this up. Okay. This has been reported and verified. He was the first one. This is way before Florida State buddy brought it up. So I say that to say that, like, everybody's like, okay, well, Florida State's leading this, and then wrong. Dan Radakovich brought it up first. And I think wisely, just because Florida State's a public school and they have the visibility, because like they've been a championship program. I mean, they're the 2013 national championship, and they're a known brand, just like Miami is, and everything, but they've been outwardly contentious with the ACC previously. Miami's been inwardly contentious, and Miami being a private school and just the optics of things is a little bit different. So basically, in large part, the Florida State athletic director is getting in front of people, and he's rapping the raps that Miami wrote. He's spitting the game that we gave him, right? Hey, look, you want to go talk to that girl over there? Go say this. And he goes, hey, what's going on? Da, 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 da. And he says exactly what we said. And like, if it works or it don't, but he's spitting our raps. Okay. So I just want to remind people, and you can go look up the timeline, because this was well before anything was said from Florida State. Miami was the first one out there. Now, Miami obviously wants out. Like, the ACC, disrespectfully, they don't give a shit about Miami. They really don't. Miami has been just, what have you done for me lately? And the only interaction really was, we want the 2001 Miami Hurricanes in the ACC. We want that program at that caliber level. For whatever reason, come hell or high water, you already know, everybody watching, Miami's not been able to deliver that. The ACC conference is outwardly contentious with Miami in so many ways. They don't give a damn about the basketball programs, plural, right? I mean, look, Miami Hurricanes men's basketball made the Final Four for the first time in school history. We're the only team playing after the first weekend from the ACC. If that were Duke, I wouldn't even say if it were Duke, because Duke basketball clearly, isn't it? If that were
Louisville.
No, because Louisville even has a bigger profile. I'm trying to if that were NC State.
Okay.
Right? Why was there not a 90-minute special on the ACC network leading up to the Final Four that week? Boom, done. Right? Embedded with the team, going through all the stuff. You got the coaches, you got the players. Hey, you got a Hall of Fame coach in Jim Larinaga. You got dynamic players. Isaiah Wong leading this team further than he led them before. Jordan Miller had a perfect game in the tournament, the first one of that ilk since Christian Laettner with the shot game against Kentucky in the Elite Eight in '92. What? Why are they not boosting that? I mean, you should be beating your chest. Yo, this is the ACC. This is one of our member teams, and you're all out there in front of everything. They didn't say fucking word. They don't care. And you never have. Because it's been, when these were negotiated, can you bring the Miami Hurricanes that we have currently seen at that time? 2001, 02, 03, 04. Are you bringing that squad to this conference. Absent that, we don't give a damn, right? So yeah, Miami wants out, absolutely, and should. And like there are other teams along that ilk. I think it is generous to add Virginia Tech, and NC State into the cadre. I think it is very generous to add them to Miami, Clemson, Florida State, and North Carolina. I think it is very generous. Now, I read a piece on 247. They're looking at where the ACC teams might fall might go to if they went somewhere else. Do I think that Virginia fits in the ACC? I'm sorry, in the Big Ten landscape? Absolutely. They're one of 15 or 20 universities that's in the whatever the cadre is. The acronym is AAU, but it's Academic Institutions Union or something like that, for high level research universities. I know that Michigan is one of those. I know that UCLA, I believe, is one of those. So, and those are Big Ten schools, right? So from an academic and a culture standpoint, again, somebody who grew up in Michigan going to the University of Michigan and around there, I got my uncle Bill went to the University of Michigan. Half of my graduating class from Cranbrook went to the University of Michigan.
Actually, everyone in the Big Ten's a member except for Nebraska. Okay. Is an AAU member.
Bang. So does Virginia fit? Yes, I think they fit independently of we need more money from the ACC in, performance bonuses or whatever. I think their conversation is we fit here. And if we want to have that conversation, cool. I don't think that in the Virginia Tech, that's laughable. For what? Honestly, that's laughable that they're in the 7. And I know if people are like, oh, well, you can't take one school and not the other. I mean, look, when, I was talking about expanding the ACC, I was talking about taking Oregon and Washington and state. Bump that. You know what I mean? You don't have to take Virginia Tech if you want Virginia. That's not a thing. So, you have that. NC State, come on. But, I mean, things do need to change, first of all, in terms of the distribution of finances. If you want to do it unevenly and give, teams more, and again, I really don't think that Virginia Tech, and North Carolina State have any say here. They're the kids who are I mean, I'll put it to you like this. I'm really smart. I'm just going to put it out there. I was in physics in high school with some dudes who were smarter in the worlds of engineering and physics than I am. That's why I'm not an engineer. That's why I don't do it professionally, even though I got A- in the class, but whatever. But them dudes were cool, we're going to build a trebuchet, 14th century counterweight catapult. We're going to build a trebuchet for our final project. Cool. I got a small car. I need somebody with a decent sized car to haul this lumber. Hi, my name is Cam. I was sitting behind you, Aaron and Colin. I think I would love to be in your group. That right there, because they had the brain power and I had look, I'm here sawing this wood. I'm going to openly, Aaron Essercon got into Caltech full ride. Hey. So I didn't mean to put his full name out there, but he was always a person who had a full name. But you know what I mean? So hey, I'm willing to say this kid was smarter in engineering than I, but I rode his coattails to that A+ on that trebuchet project. You goddamn right. So I think the Virginia Tech and NC State are metaphorically me, and they're hey, we're going to hitch our wagon to them. And if we can get the grade and we get the fallout from what those guys are earning and cool, great, wonderful, good and glorious. But I mean, something has to change, period, point blank. And if we're going to be very serious about it, hey, you know me and my anecdotes, but very seriously, and again, I'm accepting Virginia Tech and North Carolina State because I don't think that they fit at all, whatever, be mad about it. But Miami, Carolina, Florida State, and Clemson, need more money from the conference. And I think that's just period, point blank, because there's a gulf between what the Big Ten schools are getting, what the SEC schools are getting, and what we're going to be getting in the ACC. And the part of the grant of rights where this comes in, at the time that the ACC network came around, basically what happened is ESPN saw the ACC coming from a mile away. Like, y'all want this, y'all want this, y'all want this. What are y'all willing to give up to get it? And then they came back and said, well, we're willing to talk about blah, blah. And ESPN said, cool. Get all of your teams to, again, from the time of negotiation, not the time currently, but from the time of negotiation, get everybody to sign a 20-year grant of rights. You do that, you get a network. They said, cool, we're going to do that. Knowing that the TV deals were coming up, everything was going to get re-leveled, everything, new money was going to be out there, but said, cool, we're going to be locked in for 20 years. And ESPN fleeced them. Because, look, man, just the value is there. Even if, it's a Miami game. Miami, Texas A&M, not great teams, did numbers. Why? University of Miami logo. Florida State was bad for a long time. They were actually halfway decent last year. They weren't really as good as they were, but they, hey, whatever, fine. They beat the shit out of us. I know that. But, hey, Florida State on television, numbers. Clemson clearly has built themselves up to be that. But they sold their soul in the short term for this long term, but now everything has changed around them. And now, hey, and of course the ACC offices, the North Carolina centric thing, say, we're not letting y'all out. Y'all signed it. Y'all are Scottie Pippen, right? Say, look, we know that the NBA deal is coming up. We know that there's going to be new money. Why don't you take a 2-year deal now and renegotiate? A guy who slept on a dirt floor in his home with his 9 siblings growing up said, no, I want this 6-year, $18 million contract right now for my financial security moving forward. Okay. And all of a sudden, a year and a half after he signed that, NBA money exploded. But then he went back and said, okay, we renegotiate? And the owner of the Bulls said, no. We gave you the chance to take a shorter term and then come back, and we would have, but we're not going to go back against what we've already negotiated. That's the system that we are seeing with the ACC. So now it's like, where are we going to go get this money from? I mean, I don't really care about how they level it, but there are teams that are not holding up their end of the bargain. And I know people can say, well, Cam, Miami has not held up their end of the bargain in terms of performance. Yeah, but if you look at what matters in this with eyes on television sets, if you look at the media consumption of games, including Miami, right? Miami's still up there. Miami still draws. So even not being great, but yeah, I think that top 4, with the other 3 tag-alongs, but definitely the top 4 in this conference need to have an unequal share, a larger share of the money, because that's just what it needs to be. And I honestly think that, even if this does hit and there is an unequal distribution of money throughout the conference, I still think that we're looking at the disbanding of the ACC, or the ACC becoming the Big East and it being really just a basketball conference, only and exclusively, and it's to the point, in the NCAA tournament, teams get paid on units, or conferences get paid on units. So every game in which there's a team, they get a unit, and then they add those up and they divide those out. Miami was the only team earning units for the ACC all the way into the Final Four, but everybody gets to split that up. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be directly that every single year in terms of basketball, but the brand is still strong, is my point. And there's, especially in terms of football, where, just the numbers are exploding. Those teams at the top of the conference, Miami, Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, are going to have to get a larger share of the pie. And even if they do, I could reasonably, and I foresee that those teams and potentially others are going to leave the ACC in the not too distant future. But again, that's pending if you want to spend $500 million over the course of whatever to buy out of those media rights, of the grant of rights, and where they could land. But I just don't think this reeks to me of 2012 Big 12, when they started going into unequal sharing with Texas and Oklahoma. We've already seen this, and they were definitely not pleased enough with that, because I'm getting a larger piece of a smaller pie, so I can get an equal share of a bigger pie and it be larger even than the unequal split that I'm currently getting. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on, but first of all, again, I think that 3 of those teams in the Magnificent Seven are laughable to be added and included. And yeah, Miami and others need to get more from the conference, and we'll see. And they should be voting on that soon, I think.
Folks, we did a strong show on this last night on the main channel, so check it out. We had a number of guests come in and really dissected this. The one point that I'll bring forward would be that while it takes that enormous amount of money, which I believe is the $120 million plus what would home game broadcasting fees bring over the course of the contract, and that's where that rough figure comes in at $500 million. But there's a stipulation in the contract that will really become tangible in 2024 when the new Big Ten and SEC deals go into effect, that the ACC, I forget what the terminology is, but basically has to stay competitive with the marketplace. And that's what I think a lot of people are hoping becomes the catch point to break them free, is to say, you're not holding your end of the bargain on this deal, and we are no longer competitive with our peers.
Well, first of all, I didn't know that, and that's good to know. I have to think about that, but it's kind of, harkening back to the Bill Clinton days. What the definition of is, but what's the definition of competitive? Like, is competitive within 30%? Within
Sure.
It like literally it comes down to what that definition is, so it'll be interesting.
And that's a good point you bring up, because I've had other lawyer types say that this contract seems on the surface to be written terribly, but it was actually written well in a terrible way, in a very convoluted and awkward way, to use terms just like that would be difficult to define and get around.
Okay. Yeah.
And that could be part of it as well. I think there's 2 basic reasons why the ACC is earning less money than the other 2 major conferences, the 2 that are starting to drive this sport. One, you eloquently outlined that they got shafted by ESPN, and ESPN saw them coming and they cut a bad deal. So that's one component. But the other component would be that on average, ACC games do not bring in the eyeballs that SEC and Big Ten games bring in.
Yeah. And I mean,
so that's part of it. The conference is not worth as much as the other 2 conferences in football.
Fair. And I mean, you think if you have the CBS and Fox games, the national TV, always, games, even from growing up, and ABC with that. But I mean, ABC, they kind of rotate through. But yeah, you just have national visibility in things as the sport is scaled. But yeah, that is interesting. I mean, it's going to be a fight. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't think that these teams are going to just accept that we all are going to get less money and be happy with it. It will be interesting. So yeah.
And also understand, as I know you do, that there are 2, 3, 4, 5 schools that drive every conference and earn most of the money. So this same initiative, this same fight could be taken up by Ohio State and Michigan, and to a lesser degree, Penn State and Wisconsin, let's say in the Big Ten. But when you're earning the most, I guess you just consider that part of doing business.
But then also remember that you have the 2 LA schools coming in as well.
Well, they're coming in, but
I mean, but that's for the new deal. Like, that matters. And then so you're adding the Los Angeles market, the 2nd largest market in the country, in the footprint, like that. That matters.
But my point is, as you well know, Ohio State and Michigan get by far more eyeballs than anybody else in that conference. And then again, to a lesser degree, Penn State, et cetera. And they could go and say, okay, we're all getting 85 million, but if you do the math on the TV ratings, we should be getting 120 million.
Right.
Like, that all could be done in other conferences. That could be done by Alabama and Georgia and LSU.
Right. Why is Northwestern getting the same allocation as Michigan and Ohio State? Why is Vanderbilt getting the same allocation as Georgia and Alabama? I get you.
But I guess when you're making the most, you don't care as much. You're like, okay, we're fine. You're
willing to concede that point. Just, hey, fine, they can have it, It'll help their academic programs. It'll help their students, or athletic. It'll help them and everything. But like rocking this boat could destroy it for everybody. So I'm willing to take a minor haircut again at a way bigger number in total than because I'm sure that those teams are laughing at Miami and Florida State and everything like, oh, wow, that's crazy. They accept that, kind of thing. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But I think it needs in the interim or the short term, it needs the ACC distribution paradigm needs to go to unequal, and then we'll see wherever the U lands. But I don't think that it's going to be long-term ACC because they don't care about us, and we openly have wanted to leave for way longer than just since Dan Radakovich has been here. Trust and believe that.
And I don't disagree with your evaluation of the 4 versus the 3 of the ACC 7. But while they're riding on the coattails, unlike your analogy, there is no obligation for the SEC and the Big Ten to take those 3 just because they're riding on the coattails of the other 4.
I don't think that it's even that. I think I'm looking at them in the short term, as in they're trying to justify them getting a larger share than Georgia Tech, Duke, whomever.
Yeah.
Not that it's a contiguous 7 that's going to land elsewhere. I think it's definitely going to be, you're going to partner up maybe. Again, with the exception of like Virginia, because like why would Virginia, because of their academic profile, they ain't got to partner with nobody. You know what I mean? Like we fit the footprint, just a little bit further south from New York, so which had, the Rutgers market and everything, but like academically and socially fit the Big Ten. So like we can make this happen. It doesn't need to be hey, I brought my friend with me. And like, I think that we collectively can, which I think, would happen in some other instances, potentially, if Miami and, was to, I hate to say it, but if Miami was to partner with Florida State or Florida State and Clemson and be like, hey, SEC, 1, 2, 3, let's go. Like I could see some of those things, but I mean, in terms of like where everybody lands in the future, like it's very insular. And then like, hey, if I see that like I can't get in the club and you can't get in the club, but you and me both can get in the club. So let's ride together so we can get in the club. I think there might be a little bit of that. But no, like the Virginia, who I think is just a perfect fit for the Big Ten for a variety of reasons. They can roll solo, and then Virginia Tech is going to be, hey guys, can we go with y'all? Do you got any room in your car? You got the 2-seater. Okay, cool. Mark, do you have no? Okay, you're actually riding with Cam. Okay, cool. Jess, can dang, she's already gone. David can. Oh no, he's actually riding with Mark and Cam. I think that they might be in that kind of a situation.
And then there becomes some kind of hodgepodge old Big East conference with Syracuse and Pitt and Virginia Tech and whomever else. And, we rewind the clock 25 years.